How you doing, man?
I'm good.
Sweet. We were just talking a little bit before this, and then Lucy, she recommended you. So you gotta correct me. She mentioned something about health related stuff. Or let me backtrack. What do you do?
Yeah, it's kind of a long story, but I initially came into my personality as like an artist, so I wanted to pursue art whenever I was here at USD. And then I wanted to become a language and history teacher, Dakota language and history. And so I went that way because I first started doing art classes, but my creativity was like bound to a grade, and I didn't really like that feeling of like, I have to do this certain art. I can't make the art I want. I got to make this art for a grade, And then so I just like, all right, I'm going to pursue Native American studies and become a teacher. And then my senior year came, and then I had all my electives or my core classes, they were done. And then my advisor, she's like, I'm going to sign you up for this class. You might like it. I was like, okay, what's the class? Native People's Healthcare and Policy. I was like, oh, that sounds interesting. I'll take that one. And then I ended up taking the class, and they start talking about epidemiology and, health related issues and just all the studies that are out there, high rates of diabetes and mortality, heart disease. And so this one class changed the direction of like my path, or like it put me on the path that I felt was like more aligned with what I felt inside. And so, I've been through Native ceremonies. We have the Inipi and the Sundance. And so these ceremonies teach us how to carry ourselves in every aspect, the medicine wheel, spiritual, emotional, mental, physical. So I went through the ceremonies and I learned about myself through the ceremonies, and in these ceremonies, there's health related concepts and teachings. So I use my cultural education and my standard education. And I'm like, okay, how can we take the teachings from the ceremonies and the Western wellness education and bridge them where we can find that wellness and that balance in an everyday life, not just in ceremony, not just at the gym, but, simple things like praying with your water, and you speak good words over that water and pray with it, then it changes the makeup of that water,
Yeah, okay, I get it. Let me see if I'm saying it right. What is it? Tribe? What tribe are you from? Or
Yankton Sioux.
Yankton Sioux. So
Ihonk-Tuan.
Okay, how do you say that again?
Ihonk-Tuan.
Ihonk-Tuan?
Yeah.
Okay.
Ihonk-Tuan.
So all this stuff is throughout this year is like brand new, because since I'm from the South, I haven't met, like, when we came up here, I thought, first of all, I was like, well, there's a lot of Hispanic people. But then they weren't Hispanic. They're Native American. I was like, oh, snap. First of all, I got that completely wrong. And then that's when I started learning, up here about, I guess it's the Sioux, but I talked to, Damon Leader Church?
Yep.
Yeah. He was telling me it's, if I remember right, and you correct me, it's like there's Lakota, Dakota.
Nakota.
Okay. Yeah, he was telling me all about it, and and I started like doing some, I guess, my history research, and I was like, well, this stuff is kind of interesting, the different tribes, but also because, I feel like I was ignorant. I didn't know. I thought they were all the same cultures throughout the whole U.S., but it's not. I guess it's the same. Mexico's different from, the Dominicans, and then the South America or South and Central Americans. It's probably the same with y'all. Because also another person that I know, she was only, I think, the first one. My cousin's wife, what is she? From Oklahoma, and I think they're Comanche. But I guess it's completely different. And later on I'll explain why. But how has that? Let me go back to it again. One thing that I've noticed with y'all is the Native American culture. You guys are like, you guys embrace it a lot. You guys are proud. Has that always been like that?
I guess I can only speak for myself, but well, see, I grew up in Wagner, South Dakota. There was a Casey's, and then behind it there's this park of trailers, so that's where I grew up. And then when Donis and Lucy came to school here, and then my mom ended up following them, and we moved here when I was in 3rd grade. And so back then, early 2000s, being here in the public school system, it was kind of like, there were other natives here, but it was kind of like frowned upon to be native.
Really?
It was almost like a shameful thing, or that's how, like, I guess looking back, like how we felt, and trying to integrate here into the public school system, as I got older, when everyone like started coming into their teen years and identity and finding out who they really are, I experienced a lot of racism here within the public school system. So I wasn't able to graduate out of Vermillion High School. I actually ended up leaving because I would get into trouble with fighting and things like that. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
See, I remember when I was younger, same thing. I was elementary school. I think it was like 1st, 2nd grade. So my parents they're from Mexico. And then my dad came to the US. I think he said he either said 1st or 3rd grade. But where I'm from, I'm from Dallas Fort Worth, and then there's a little area called Haltom City. So when we moved there, and I think I moved to that place in 1999. Yeah, because school just started. Yeah, it just started. So throughout those first years, I remember I felt a little different because there wasn't actually a lot of Hispanic people. I think there was 3 or 4 families that we knew. And I remember being, same thing, it was like a little ashamed, but I was treated fine. But it's just like, I saw myself, I was like, I don't want, because I knew like my family was Mexican. I knew we spoke Spanish, and I would not want to speak Spanish. I don't know why. I mean, I don't know if I just feel like, this is, maybe I wanted to be more integrated. And I remember one time thinking, I was like, I don't want to be Mexican. I'm not Mexican. I don't want to do this. I'm not. I don't know why. But then I think throughout the same thing, those teen years, like middle school, I think there was more people that were more Hispanic. And then, I was fine speaking more Spanish. But then everything went fine. But I don't know what it is when you're like kind of younger. You do kind of feel just a little bit different, especially the cultures. I know the culture, like with our culture, and maybe it was like, I don't know, the American or Texas culture, it is a little more different. That's just my perspective. You kind of feel me, right?
Yeah. It's like when we're young like that, we're more malleable. So like our minds, like we want to try to fit in, or we don't want to look at those parts of us. But to backtrack, just running into the right people, throughout my journey at that certain time when I was trying to get a hold of like my identity, like, dang, I'm native, but what does that mean? There's more to that. Oh, I'm Ihanktuan, Yankton Sioux. What does that mean? So coming across these people, and there's been a lot of people in my walk, they share stuff with me, or just language or certain things, be proud to be Indian, be proud to be who you are, because that's at the core, in your blood, that's who you are. And yeah, that's your identity. So you can't run from that.
That is true. It's what you are. Family, culture, you have that. Same thing. I don't think you should be ashamed for what you are. I think it's also important to know like the history and everything about it. Which also my wife. So my wife is from Mexico. She came up here I think a few years ago. We went to this museum where it's the museum, the WHO museum.
Yep.
Yeah, the one next to the stadium. And then we were in there, and then there's a picture. I think I remember seeing the history books. There's a picture. It's a bunch of, bison or buffalo skulls, a bunch of them. And then there's a guy standing up there. And my wife, because she doesn't know the history about it, and she says, "Why is there a bunch of skulls there?" And if I get it right, I said, "Yeah, they used to, or back in the day, I think it was like 1800s. The settlers or whoever, they killed like a bunch of the bison or buffalo." She's like, "Why?" Because they wanted, I think, if I remember right, yeah, because it was a source of not just only food, but it's very important to some of the natives in the plains. And if you wipe them out, I think they're also trying to wipe out, them. And because she didn't know that, she was like, "Really? They did that?" I'm like, "I think so."
Yeah, that picture is very infamous or famous, however you want to look at it, and so like tying it back into the work I do, I used to work for Urban Indian Health out of Sioux Falls. So it's a nonprofit health clinic.
Mm.
And so there they have like their clinical doctors, nurses, they have their behavioral health team. And then another department was the cultural health team. So we did like sweat lodges, men's talking circles, Red Road Recovery Group.
Mm-hmm.
So going back to that, that buffalo, that picture, I just shared that like a month ago, but I always talk about that, that was our livelihood. That was our sustenance, the tatanka, buffalo. We used it for everything, every part of it, every organ, even the horns, we use them for cups, or, when we're in sweat lodge, they pour the water on the rocks. They use those. But when I look at that picture, I think of what was taken, not only from us, but the Buffalo Nation, in anthropological terms, they call it deicide, because the buffalo was like a deity in that language to us.
Okay.
We had that connection to it, so they wanted to kill it and exterminate it. But when I look at that picture, I think of what was taken from them, and us too, the opportunities of health and wellness. It was like a link in the chain, this beautiful, strong link of generations of them taking care of us. And then they went and exterminated all in buffalo, and they stole opportunity from them and, our ancestors, opportunities of health and wellness. And, now what we see is the aftermath of that, the high rates of diabetes, dementia, heart rate, because all these foods we eat now are like new to us.
Yeah.
The carbs and the flours and all that stuff.
Yeah, I heard that too. I think, who told me? Yeah, it was Damon. Yeah, Damon Lee Recharge. He told me something about, we're talking a little bit about health. Something about how they said some type of, what do you say? Trauma? This is generation. I don't know. Something it passes on.
Yeah, intergenerational trauma.
Yeah, but what does that? Yeah. What does that mean, though?
So the way I understand it is like, say you have someone who was at Wounded Knee Massacre, right? Someone's grandma or grandpa, and yesterday was the anniversary of that. Over in Wounded Knee, where they slaughtered men, women, and children. The U.S. Army. But say you have a survivor of Wounded Knee, and they went through that traumatic time. And so whenever they have a kid, and then that kid has a kid, so that survivor being someone's grandma or grandpa, that experience, they say, gets passed down through the DNA, through the genes, the gene expression.
Yeah.
And so it's through the generations, it's transmitted. But then you also have, like, that person also has, like, their own personal individual trauma. And then so that's just the way I understand it being transmuted through the genes. But also, like, boarding school survivors, people who are beaten for speaking their language, or not praying in English, or, saying the Lord's Prayer. So then there's also behavioral ways, learned behaviors of how that trauma gets passed down too. Like someone grows up spanking their kids.
Yeah.
Like, oh, my mom used to spank me. Oh, my child's acting up. What am I going to do? I'm going to spank them. And then so once we stop those behaviors and that unlearning, then that's how we change the trauma. And so like part of my work, I was a certified personal trainer there for a bit. I forgot to renew my certification, but so, my 4 years of schooling, my cultural education, and then my certification for personal training, I just combine all of them to be a service to people. And I really call myself a cultural health consultant. So then, like the way I was structuring things in my organization, I used to have, the mission was reintegrating intergenerational wellness. So we always hear about intergenerational trauma, but prior to contact with the settlers and Europeans, we had a long history of wealth, wealth and health, food, land, resources, water, living on Mother Earth. We were some of the healthiest people. All these creeks and these rivers, they used to flow with fresh water, spring water, some of the most, or even nowadays, like most lands that reservations are on, they're some of the most mineral rich lands.
Oh, they are?
Yeah. So like take, let's see here. There's the Oglala aquifer out west, a lot of fresh water underneath Mother Earth there. Go up further to like Fort Berthold, they have a lot of oil up there. So just for some reason, I don't know why the land that they didn't want or they thought was like unfit, they put the natives on there and it ended up being some of the most mineral rich land.
A lot of the land nowadays is used for agriculture, right? That land, let's say at the reservations, it hasn't been like used hard like how it is nowadays. Would it be a good thing if they did use it because it's very, like are you saying, mineral rich, or you think, hey, no, we should just kind of preserve the land, just leave it like how it is?
I would say it'd probably be a good thing to use it, like for example, like on my res, a lot of our land though is like it's either leased to like a farmers or
Lucy told me about that.
Yeah, our res is like a checkerboard. So like this track might be tribe might own this, or this next lot over here might be privately owned, or this might be leased. So it just depends, or it might be public. So like, excuse me if I'm wrong, but I know Rosebud and Oglala Sioux tribe, I think their reservations, they have like complete jurisdiction over their whole reservation. Like no highway patrols or state troopers can, pull anybody over on their lands. But like my res, it's not like that. It's like real checkerboarded. So state has jurisdiction in some places.
Is that a good thing or a bad thing? Or does it depend?
In my mind, for us, it's a bad thing. Because there are certain times there where like, let's say someone is running from the police on public land and they drive into tribal land. And so a lot of times the state cops or the city police will get a hold of the tribal cops, and the tribal cops will go on tribal land to grab that person and bring them back to public land. So thinking in terms of not just law and order here, but like tribal constitution and sovereignty, what the tribal cop is doing is he's giving up our sovereignty in a way, in a sense. You're safe on that land in a sense, but you're coming and then you're handing over one of our tribal members to the state,
I get it now.
So
what else is different on the res? Because I've drove past them, but I've never been on them. How different is it? Or is each reservation also different?
Yeah, each reservation has their own political, social makeup, depending on the treaty and then the tribal government. So like there's a thing called Public Law 280, and that's just like immunity from state jurisdiction. So like how like Rosebud and Oglala, or even back home, state don't have jurisdiction on tribal land.
Oh,
But
okay.
but where the water gets muddy is the the feds, the FBI and stuff, they have jurisdiction
But not the
on
state.
tribal land because it's federal land. Yeah. So
Oh,
it's like, yeah.
oh, that's weird. So it's federal land, but the state like doesn't have too much power,
No.
but the feds does.
Yep.
Oh man, that's weird. I
Yeah,
thought.
that's crazy, right?
Do you get? Okay, I didn't know that. I thought it was the same. Could let's say like the U.S. government, could they, if they want to, can they take that land away from y'all or not? If they
Um,
wanted to, they're like, hey, you know what? We're kicking you guys out. This is gonna be ours, and we're gonna use it for something.
yeah, I'm sure there's a process to that. There's this thing called eminent domain. It's
Oh yeah,
kind of been like a hot topic since the pipelines, but I think the government, and we look at the history of the relations between tribes and the government, it hasn't really been too solid. So I would assume they could come in and almost do anything. And so just learning and witnessing things, it's just like, for me, it goes back to ceremony and culture and sticking to prayer, because they try to come for everything once. And who says they're going to not try to come for everything again? History tends to repeat itself if we don't learn from it.
true.
But, looking back from, things and stories that elders shared with me, they're like, they're doing all this stuff to us. They've done all this stuff to us. Boarding school. What was it? Standing Rock, the pipeline, and they're like, we got to keep ourselves in a good place and pray and listen for the signs and stay headstrong. All this little stuff shouldn't really, it's not little, but you can't really let it bother you. You got to stay focused on your vision and family and taking care of everyone. Things are going to happen out of our control. It's just a matter of who we are during those times and how we get through that.
What differences have you noticed between, like, let's say like the American culture, like in South Dakota, versus like in your culture? I like asking this because, like, especially when I talk to people from like different countries, they always tell me, the differences. Even with us, we notice there's some differences between like in the Mexican culture versus like a standard American. What differences have you noticed?
Yeah, I guess there's a lot to that, but I guess one thing that comes to mind is just like the threshold for like to handle challenges are hardships. Like, I guess just looking back, some of my non-native friends, like, they'll be going through something, and then everyone goes through something, well, no matter what it is, but like their response to this thing they're going through is kind of like I guess it's just overreact. To me it's an overreaction.
I get it. Yeah.
But then, like, if I put myself in that situation, I'm like, shoot, I'm not tripping. So I guess just that threshold for hardship is one thing I notice. And then I don't know, one thing that comes to mind is just being able to tease and joke around. There's some people you can tease and joke around with and laugh, and then there's some people you can't, like, that's off limits for them because they'll blow up. But yeah, I guess just the ability to relate to is another thing. Going to school here, me and other native students, and we just, no matter where we were at or how little we had, we made the most of it, and we had the most fun. I met a good group of brothers here at USD, Miko, Bear Killer, Antone, and we all didn't have dads, so we kind of just, we embraced each other, and we related in that sense, and so it kind of made us closer. We would bounce ideas off each other. I realized, like, hey, this is all we have right here, right now, is each other. And, how are we going to get through these years of school? How are we going to, hardships would come up throughout the school year or even the summer, and just having people to bounce ideas off and lean on, like, what do you think about this? What should I do? How should I respond to this? Or, and then just going forward. So, but yeah, that's another thing that comes to mind is like, man, we'd be anywhere on campus, we'd be having the most fun, We'd be in the wellness center and, everyone's all serious in there pumping iron and we're just sitting there laughing and cracking up. And I guess just the ability to laugh too, just laugh about the hard things.
No, yeah.
The dark things. No.
Yeah, true. No, sometimes you have to have that, like how you're saying, bad stuff, everyone's going to have those bad things. And maybe it depends. Maybe it's like really bad, but hey, sometimes you just gotta. I was talking to my wife about it too. Bad things will happen, but what's your response? Are you just gonna, if something bad happens, are you just gonna be like, pouting and that's it and just give up, or hey, maybe you gotta adapt. Of course, it's gonna be bad, but it's like rehab. Something bad happens with you, with your body. If you're just laying around, it's not gonna get better. Maybe you won't recover 100%, but you'll maybe feel better or change, that adaptation. That's what I think. I don't know. That's the type of healing that I'm thinking, which is also one of those important things that you were mentioning, like that, healing you mentioned like sweat. What was it called? The sweat
lodge.
Yeah. What are those? What are those ceremonies? What are they like?
So in our language, we say inichagapi, and that means to make live again. So it actually comes from a story. And there's a lot of stories that, these stories tell us why things are the way they are. It just wasn't someone went and did this thing and now that's why we do it, So, long story short, I guess the sweat lodge is kind of like a sauna in a way, but you're dealing with the elements of Mother Earth, so we go and we take these willows and we build like a hut, And then a long time ago, they would cover them with buffalo hides. But now we use canvas or tarps and blankets. And so the sweat lodge actually retells of our creation story. And so we take these grandfathers, the rocks. And so the ideologies of our people, science says rock is an inanimate object, dumb as a rock.
Yeah.
But then our perspective, Dakota Woyukchanki, the way we think about things. These elders here, these stones here, they've been here since the beginning of time, since the earth was created. And they've seen a lot. They've witnessed a lot. No eyes, no ears, but they see and hear everything, And just like us, these stones have that spark of life from the Creator inside them. So we take these stones and then we build a fire. And then we'll light that fire and we'll offer tobacco and pray. And then whenever the fire is ready, then we'll carry these stones into the sweat lodge. And then inside the lodge, there's a pit in the center. So just like Mother Earth, she holds the fire at her core, just like that sweat lodge, there's a center there. The rocks go in there. And so just like when we were born, we came from that fire in the sky. Our spirit came through the sun, through Mother Earth, then through our mother, through her womb. So it's a retelling of that creation story. And so these rocks are holding fire, right? And they're glowing. And so when the person running the sweat, they'll take the horn or a cup of water and they'll pray. And they'll throw it on the iyans, or the tunka as we call them. And so when the water meets the fire, anytime two elements combine, in the center there, they say that's where all the power is going to be. So when the water hits the fire, then it creates that steam or the breath of life. That's symbolic for. It's symbolic, but it's also the truth. You know, that's the breath of Creator, or the breath of life we have. And so through healing, you know, that steam, it comes and it pushes the water inside of us out, and it puts in the new water from the rocks and the steam. So whatever, you know, at the way I think about it, like science too, like at the molecular level, we have this fresh steam, this prayer, this energy coming and like renewing us, you know, making us live again. Just like the name for the ceremony.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's kind of cool. I
Yeah.
never thought about it like that.
So sometimes it's a spiritual, sometimes we could have a spiritual thing wrong with us, or an emotional, or mental, or physical.
Mm-hmm.
So back in college, you know, I had a hard time with sobriety and even COVID, you know. When COVID came, I would say my normal like body weight was like around 175, 180. And then when COVID came, I shot up to like 209, you know. So I had to relate how I got there and backtrack. And that's kind of where all this started. You know, I started learning about food and exercise, wellness, the blood, fasting. But I already had a baseline understanding from, you know, culture and ceremony and what the culture is teaching me. And so, like spiritual, all of us on this earth, you know, spirit is the common denominator for all of us, you know. So even like the sweat lodge ceremony is not just for Native people, but those who believe, you know, they can go in there, and if they really believe, you know, 110% with their heart and their mind that it's going to help them, then they're going to get that help. So, excuse me. Common denominator is the spirit. And then they say the translator of your spirit is your emotions. So if you look at someone, look at their emotions, the way they speak, express themselves, that'll tell you a lot about their spirit or who they are. And then the mind is a translator. So our mind is able to take things in this universe, or when we're outside and we're praying or whatever it is, and we get that feeling or that thought, you know, it's our mind. We're able to translate what the universe, this physical world out here, what it's given us. And then our body, they say, is the first earth we live in. It's the first earth. So when we know how to water and cultivate and work and make this here grow, and have respect for this, then we have that respect for Mother Earth outside of us. And so there's a lot to it. Like for the brain, you know, like in English, you think of the word brain and you think of like, you know, something pink and squiggly. And so in Dakota, we say Nasuna. And so that's talking about a seed from within that can grow. So our mind, you know, whatever we feed and water and watch and read, that's what's going to grow our mind, our stunt it.
Okay, cool. Is there anything like, well, I feel like now we're talking about also philosophy. It's very interesting. What for you? Yeah, I'm gonna ask it. For you, what let's say what do you think happens after we die? Like, what do you believe, or what do you think happens?
Yeah, I believe that our spirit goes back to the source where it came from. You know, there's many names for that. In our language, we say Machbia Tipi, and, you know, the home in the sky. And there's a lot of people in history, Native history, who've touched on this. Chief Seattle, he said, there is no death. There's only a change of worlds. Crazy Horse said, he said something along the lines of, this is like in this world we live in, there's a shadow world behind this. So he talks about like this is a temporary. So a lot of like known native figures, they talk about that there being a next world. And I believe that, you know, there's the heavens or a spirit world where all our ancestors are, because energy can't be created nor destroyed. And so spirit is energy, and energy is spirit. You know, we lay this temporary earth body down, and then we move on to the next world.
Okay. And that next world, it doesn't have to be like, could it be like in another universe or dimension, or what do you think?
I think it's a world that's forever, you know. That's kind of why we're here, to like, if you look at the monks, to train their mind, you know, they're in meditation. And so in meditation, it's just like to be in the moment, you know. And so we're slowly here learning part of that, to be in the moment, because when we get there, that's forever. So then we have to really embrace that.
Okay. There was I had someone on, his name is Jeffrey. He's we were talking about Buddhism, because that's what he does. And it sounded similar. He was talking about how, like, you know, atoms and everything, it gets transferred. And then also the rebirth, I think they call it, reincarnation and rebirth, if I get that wrong. So it's similar, like the, you know, transferring your energy or spirit. I'm like, oh, yeah, that's kind of cool.
Yeah, because we hear stories of like spirits and, you know, those who come help us in ceremony. So that's all the, not really confirmation, but it's reassuring to me and everyone to know that there's a life after this one, you know. Because in these ceremonies, you know, someone's grandma or grandpa or relative who passed however long ago, you know, they'll come and they'll share what needs to be shared, you know, and so that you can't fake that, you know.
What about what do you think of, is there like bad spirits or ghosts or demons? You also believe in that?
Yeah. Yep. I guess another word is wanagi, but it's like a disembodied spirit, or spirits that just, I don't know, I can't really grasp the concept of it, but I know I'm not supposed to, because I'm just a human being. But there's a world of spirits out there in different realms and different, you know, come from different places. So yeah, I can't even really think about all that, you know.
I think Lucy, I was talking about it. This was like a while back. I mean, I asked her, hey, isn't there, because I said, is it in your culture or is it somewhere else? I've heard about it where like someone's transforming into like an animal, but she mentioned something about us. She said skinwalker, or I don't know, but she mentioned something like that, but she said it was like a bad thing, or like, I'm trying to figure out which.
Yeah, that's more down south, Navajo skinwalkers. Yeah. So like there's this book. So I'm related to Vine Deloria Jr. on my father's side. And he's like my great grandpa. And so there's this book called The World We Used to Live In. And in this book, he's talking about all these stories of different medicine men or medicine people. And so a long time ago, these medicine people, they would have not really a competition, but like a duel, kind of like they would show off their powers. And so a long time ago, there's stories about, we call them shapeshifters. And so it's not really a derogatory or bad thing. It's just certain medicine people had their helpers. And so like, I don't know, whatever their helper might be, they could shapeshift into that helper. Or if you ever get a chance, watch the movie Thunderheart.
Okay.
So it takes place out west, but there's a scene in that film, and John Trudell, he plays the fugitive in that movie, and the one the FBI is after. But there's a scene where he breaks free from the tribal cops, and he's handcuffed, right? And so he's running away, and he jumps off the cop car, and with his hands behind his back, he pulls him underneath his legs, so he has him in front of him. And then the camera pans away, and then when it comes back, there's a deer running. Oh. So even in that movie, there's semblances of like hinting at shape-shifting. And so I guess like to the human mind, or even like, you know, the science mind, you know, nowadays we want to like rationalize everything. Like I
That's
can't
true.
even believe that. But like Crow Dog and Blackout, they all talk about how everything's one. And the way I understand this is like going back to creation, the creation story. So you think about the sun, right? And there's this ball of fire, and this ball of fire is burning so hot. And usually when there's heat, there's going to be wind. So like in the summer when it's about to get hot, or on hot days, like the wind's blowing like really wicked, you know. So the sun, from all the burning and the heat, it gave birth to the wind. So that wind. And in our language, they say humani. And that means to make water. So from that wind spinning and spinning, then it created water. And so from water, all the life can come. The earth, the minerals, you know, all the vegetation. So if earth is made from water, and water is made from wind, and wind was made from fire, then that makes sense that all things can be one thing.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah, I get it. What about who made the fire? Or how was that fire made? Or is that when they say like it could be a god or a deity? Or what's your perspective on that?
Who made the fire?
Yeah.
I say creator.
Okay.
Know?
Sweet.
Creator. However he made it, I don't know. But you know, look at all the life, like Sweat Lodge. A long time ago, our people kept fire. Even Mother Earth, you know, the fire at her core, you know, that could be only done by the hands of God, you know.
Do you know that show Avatar, The Last Airbender?
Yeah.
So there's a scene, and I think people, they know about it. I talk about it all the time. So when Zuko, he's a firebender, he's saying fire is destruction, then Aang and them are... I'll just skip to the last part. But then they meet these dragons, and then they're learning about fire. And then they say, hey, fire is not destruction, it's life. I'm like, oh, snap, that's that connection.
Yeah.
That's where I get my knowledge from.
Yeah, that's a great show.
Yeah.
But you know, our people took care of fire a long time ago. Even nowadays, we have certain fire keepers at certain ceremonies. You know, they're relative to that fire. They know about that fire. They've seen what it can do. And so even a long time ago, in the depths of a plains blizzard here, you know, they kept that fire going. There are certain people who are designated to watch that fire and keep that fire burning, you know. So, you know, look back into history, or, you know, a long time ago till now. One thing I like saying is our fires still burn, you know, our sweat fires, our ceremony fires, and whatever we need fire for, you know, it's a blessing and a privilege to be able to say that, you know, we still have our ceremonies and our culture, you know, because a lot of tribes out there lost everything, or some were completely wiped out. So, you know, I guess just looking back, it's a privilege and honor to be able to know a little bit about what I know about and share it.
What I really like is, like, for example, in y'all's culture, you guys know like the history. Because like I'll give my example. Like for me, I don't know like our stuff. Of course, like I just don't know. We don't know. One thing I talked to Damon about it, but so it might have changed. It might have changed, but I feel like it hasn't. So in Mexico, there's more down south. There's there's indigenous people, but over there, it's actually kind of bad being indigenous. Like there's it's kind of weird, you know. There's also, you can't talk to them in Spanish because they don't know Spanish, because they know just their indigenous language. And then I think it's over there, Myra was telling me, like the government doesn't help or nothing, so they're on their own. And also like if you get called over there, for example, I guess if you get called like an indio, which just means Indian, it's like a racial slur, so it's like a bad thing. So that's why for my was surprising over here, like people embrace it, they like it, but over there they don't like it. Like it's a weird, it's super weird. It's a weird thing. So that's why I'm like, that's kind of cool how you guys aren't ashamed.
Yeah,
You know?
I see what you're saying. So like, it all has to do with the land base and the taking of that land, or the control of what goes on that land. And so anytime that someone wants to come in and take control of that land and the resources, or whatever the MO is for those actions, what you want to do is you want to erase the people that are on it, the original inhabitants of it. And so it all goes back to mental warfare and actual warfare. And so calling them Indios and creating that negative energy, you know, and erasing who's on that land. And so I think in South Dakota, we went through that period. You know, some of our people went through that period of living with that shame and that derogatory, you know, Indio and or Indian or Injun or other words I won't say, but John Trudell talked about this. He said, I like the drunken Indian. You know,
yeah, I've heard that stereotype. Yeah.
So he said something along the lines of, at that moment in time, we couldn't be who we were, which is native, right? And we didn't want to become who they wanted us to be through boarding school and colonization. So as a form of resistance, you know, we couldn't pray, we couldn't have ceremony, we couldn't speak our language. We didn't want to go to church. We didn't want to get jobs and live this American dream they're selling us. So he said, somewhere in the middle there, we survived. We said, I'm not going to do either one of those. I can't do that. I'm not going to do that. So I'm going to drink and I'm going to get by and I'm going to pass the time. Sort of like a form of resistance in a way, you know. And so I thought that was pretty interesting how he worded that.
Yeah.
That perspective, you know.
But why do you think, like, what do you think is the reason, let's say like in history, people want to wipe out different cultures? Like even, I guess, I don't know, maybe it's just me, because like me, I think it's cool, you know, if there's people with different cultures, or they're different religions, or they're different ethnicities from different countries. I think it's cool because you learn something different, you know, because for example, in my culture, maybe I wouldn't have learned this or this or that. So that's why I was always wondering, like, what's the point of wiping a culture or changing them? Like, I don't know. Why do you think they do that?
I know it comes down to fear. And this one thing helped me out in life. They said, one of the grandpas who's passed on now, he said, we either do things out of fear or out of love. You decide. And so I start to pan out on my life and then look at all my decisions. You know, am I doing this out of fear or out of love? And then I start looking, you know, outside of myself at other decisions and other actions people do, and like, that's out of fear. Oh, that's out of love. And it just like helped me understand a lot more, you know.
Yeah.
So it's all fear-based.
Yeah, it's probably like, I think, no, yeah, it is probably that fear. Maybe some people, they don't like, you know, a change, and they rather just, you know, hey, for example, they're like, no, we like it how it is. For example, like right here, I don't want changes. You got to keep it like this, or you're either gone or we'll change you. Maybe that's how it is. They're just probably just scared of change.
And then that's true. And then fear of like things come in full circle. You know, we made you guys stop praying in your indigenous languages, in your ceremonies. And, you know, we're becoming as America and in Canada, even South America, you know, they want to call us minorities, but the minorities are actually becoming the majority. And so I think that's where all that fear is coming from. And so there's a lot of minority, you know, like even at the university level here in South Dakota or whatever orgs are here that have native people. You know, you guys are on Dakota, Lakota, Nakota land. Or like, I used to work at Marty Indian School, you know. We had a staff development day, a cultural sensitivity training. So like some of those teachers have been there for years, you know. Like, you guys been working at our tribe's school for years, our Indian school. You guys should be able to greet our students in their language, you know. Hihana washte, good morning. Ampetu washte. You know, so they don't want that to come full circle. So like having to learn, we're not saying you can't speak English, but like, you know, learn these certain phrases or how to talk to your students in their language. And, you know, just a due diligence in my eyes.
Yeah.
You know, if you're working at a tribal entity or anything to do with native peoples and your paycheck's coming from a tribe's money or account, you know, and it's like they're taking care of you. Your livelihood's coming from that entity.
Okay. Have you heard, I think this happened this year, something at the university. Did you ever hear about the university, something about eliminating, correct me if I'm wrong, about putting your tribe on the email? Have you heard about that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw that. And first of all, I didn't know what it was. I don't know what was happening. Something about, they were talking about your pronouns and also the tribes names. And I was like, because I remember like some on some emails, they'll have whoever it is. I think if they're native, sometimes on the bottom they'll have like, oh, whatever tribe they're from, or they'll have like a greeting in their language. And I think the university like wanted to stop it, something like that.
Yeah.
But you heard about that?
Yeah. I seen John and Megan their social media posts.
Yeah.
I can't really remember like why that's in there, but I mean, I guess we're seeing that at the university board of regents level too, like diversity and inclusion.
But what would be the problem though? I don't know, maybe it's just me, but like if I was higher up, like I feel like it doesn't matter what these people, whatever they want to put, like why would I want to eliminate it? But then also heard some other people saying, well, no, why are they putting it? But I don't see the problem. Like if they do have for example, a tribe name, I don't know how I just don't see how that's bad.
Yeah.
So I don't know why they kind of stopped that. But also maybe on the other side, some people are like, well, why are they complaining? It's just a tribe name. You could just add it on. So it's a weird thing. But I think for me though, I'm like, why take it off though? Like, are they trying to also eliminate? Is it that fear thing? But I don't know.
The only way I can relate to it in my mind is like all these people in South Dakota, non-natives, wherever they come from, right? Some of them have ties to Europe, France, the old country over there, you know. And moving here to America, you know, a lot of them don't remember their roots. They want to be American and not like, you know, where they actually come from. So they forgot their relatives over there. They forgot their actual roots, which initially they forgot themselves. And so they just want to be Americans, which is fine, you know, it's their choice. But there's something there like, oh, these guys know who they are, where they come from, their roots. They're proud of that. But me, I think I'm French or something, but I don't know, you know? So it's like, it's almost like projecting right onto this group of people because they're proud and they remember their bloodline, their lineage. But then you have someone over here, like maybe they want that, or maybe that's something they need to look at in their life and remember, you know, so they can like be fully who they are, like on an identity level.
See, I think it's cool, like learning about the history of whatever, you know, your family history or bloodline. One thing that I told Myra this, my wife, and she started laughing. I was like, no, this is true. So there's a movie called, if people know, it's called Selena. She was a Mexican American artist, cumbia. People wanted to know, but there's a movie with Jennifer Lopez. But there's a scene where it's her, the brother, and then her dad. They're driving, and they're just talking about like, because they're Mexican American, not Mexican. They weren't born in Mexico. And then there's a scene that they said, the father says, being Mexican American is tough. And I told that to Maya. I was like, hey, it's kind of true. But she's like, why? And then the scene they said, because you're trying to be, you want to be more Mexican than the Mexicans, but you also want to be more American than the Americans. You're trying to do two things. He also said that, for example, you got to learn about Oprah Winfrey and Christina. You got to learn about Elvis Presley and Vicente Fernandez, Spanish and English. It's a tough thing to be both because you're trying to be both. I told that to Myra, and then it's because she didn't understand. I'm like, hey, it kind of fits in because, like that, like when I was talking about when I was younger, I guess I want to be like more American. And then later on in late middle school, I was trying to be more Mexican. It's a weird thing. It's like a thing you kind of battle within, something like that.
Yeah, it's tough to navigate. I was on my phone the other day and I seen this like going back to what you're talking about. So there's like this there's this guy here and he's with his two friends, but he's obviously Mexican or Spanish, or mm-hmm. And one of his relatives see him and they go up to him like, hey, Mateo, and he's like frowning at him. He's like, it's Matthew. Oh. That's funny. Yeah.
I've heard that. You know what's funny? So in my family, I guess my extended family. So my dad and my uncles and aunts, they were born in Mexico and they came over, and then their kids, they or my cousins, I'm gonna say like the majority of them don't speak Spanish, and they've been to Mexico either just one time or none. And then I remember my uncle, I think he was complaining, but maybe he just got over it now. But he was talking about like the names of his grandchildren. He was like, man, they're putting these like, he said they were like just weird names. He's like, man, give me some good names. Put like Carlos or Juan or something like that. But because I guess they wanted to change it. I don't know, but it's a weird thing how you're trying to. I don't think they're forgetting their culture, but you kind of want to combine it. I don't know. It's a weird thing. So I know that sometimes, even like my wife, we were thinking about, if we had another kid, what we name it? And like same thing would be like Matthew. This, I'm like, no, it has to be like, I don't know, like Damian, or I wanted like a Spanish name to fit in. But I don't know. It's a weird thing. Super, super weird. But it's those internal struggles. Some people don't know about it.
Yeah, it's definitely a lot to navigate, Like a lot of us, we have English names. Mm-hmm. And then like my last name's French, means flag. And then some people got like real like native last names,
Yeah, I noticed that too. Like I saw some of the books, like one of them was like something Crow, or like what was the other one? There was another one that like Damon, like Leader Charge. I'm like, so that's kind of some badass names. Or last names.
And then we have what we call Indian names, or like spirit names. So then that's the name of our spirit, and then this is just like our English given name. Mm. But like in Indian country, a lot of people, they're naming their kids like in Lakota or Dakota, like whatever their spirit name is.
Yeah.
And some people are just they're changing their English name into full Dakota or Lakota.
Oh, okay. So, I wonder what would I guess, if I try, I guess my name is Jose or Jose, but I guess in English it would be like Joseph or something. Joseph, I don't know. My whole name, if people wanted to know, and I know it because I don't know what it is, but I know it like in Spanish, or in the Latin culture, we use like all the names, even my mom's last name. So mine would be like Jose Raul Lira Lopez Mesa de la Torre, something like that. I know that's one thing that Myra thought it was weird. She said, "Here it's only one last name." I'm like, yeah, it's just different cultures.
Yeah, no, that's cool because you're honoring, all those four lineages you come from.
Yeah, because you honor your. Yeah, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, because usually it's always the father, but also, hey, there's also your mother and also their families. Oh,
Yeah.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
So maybe that's why we do that.
Yeah.
What are some? I wanted to branch out a little bit, go a little off topic, kind of. What are some misconceptions about like Native American culture or natives? I know you mentioned that the alcohol one, but is there like other ones that you could think of?
Yeah, when I was in school here, I guess, like different students come from different states, and there's a few from Minnesota, and there are a few tribes in Minnesota that are like pretty wealthy.
Yeah,
they
I
get
heard
per
about that.
capita. And so, this was actually in a class. And the teacher said, I'm gonna go around and call on people. I raise your hand and tell me what you know about Native people. And a few of them raised their hand. Like, yeah, some natives that I know are like some of the wealthiest people. Yeah, I know that some natives they get a lot of money to go to school. Their school is all paid for. Or there's just like there's this statement or belief out there that like we get free money or we get money from somewhere, and I'm sitting there taking out student loans. I'm like, shoot, I wish I had free schooling, man. So.
No, that's for me, I think that's one of the first misconceptions I thought. Because I thought, because I get all my information from the internet. For some reason, the internet's always right, but it's not. I thought they were all rich, and I know why. Now I could branch out to it. In the beginning, when I told you about my cousin's wife, if I remember, I think she is Comanche. It's somewhere in Oklahoma. Because and this is what I remember. She could correct me if I'm wrong. I'll ask her if I ever see her again. But she told me, because when we were younger, she said that she had like on her bank account, since she was like, I don't know how old, they would put money, like it was like $500 every single month. And then when she was, we were in college, when she went to a different one, but she was talking about, she put a picture of a MacBook and all this stuff. And I was like, where'd you get that from? She said, from my tribe. Tribe? Yeah, they're like, yeah, they give us this, all this money and this and that. And then she said also, so her reservation, it's no one could go in. You have to be part of the tribe. And she was also telling me, like, since her kids are, well, I guess, now they're part of their blood, they also get those same benefits. So in my mind, I thought, that's what I thought too. I was like, oh, snap. They're all either wealthy or they have all this stuff. I was like, oh, snap. Until I came here, and same thing, I talked to Lucy about it, and she mentioned the reservations here, some of them are very poor. I think the poorest one is in South Dakota, the poorest one. So that's what surprised me. I was like, oh, I was wrong. I didn't know that. But I didn't know. I don't know why they were. I don't know if it's because down there they own casinos or something like that. But you also mentioned the ones in Minnesota are also kind of wealthy-ish.
Yeah, each tribe has their own like political and social and economic makeup. And it all goes back to like treaties and history. Some tribes have oil on their land and some tribes sell the oil. Some tribes have casinos in like good locations. Mm-hmm. And then, they generate revenue. Each tribe generates revenue, and how they invest that revenue, whether they distribute it to each member, in per capita payment, or they hold on to it and invest it and pour it into other things so it can generate more, and then they distribute it, And then you got tribes like, like my tribe, where it's just like we're always just not making the right moves, and just, our people get in there tribal council, and they have their own interests, and
Mm.
it's all for them and their families. And so,
It's part of that corruption sometimes.
yeah.
What would you do? Let's say if you had control over, your tribe, what would you do?
That's a good question. I've talked about this with a few of my brothers. So if I would made it on like tribal council,
Mhm.
or if I was ever chairman, I would have like not necessarily an orientation, but like, so you have people leaving regular jobs, right?
Mm.
And day jobs, and they're going to be leaders of the tribe, of the people. And so now they have time, in a sense, to get out of the 9 to 5 or the rat race a little bit. So what I would do is I'll have like a retreat almost for each leader, each tribal council member, and whatever help they would need, whether it was like ceremony, therapy, maybe someone has like an injury or something that needs to be rehabilitated, or chiropractor or massage or something like that, So I'd have like a week, 2 weeks of just getting people taken care of in that way, and how are we gonna, it's like self-development, we all need to be on the same page here, sort of. So we all got to take care of each other. And then my biggest thing is like, because tribal councils are like, some of them, that type of government is foreign to us in some tribes, So for me, what really it comes down to is ceremony and language and culture, and how are we gonna retain these things for future generations? You can be a tribal member, or you could be a tribal citizen.
Mm-hmm.
So a tribal member is just like someone who's just living life, and they're still native, and they're a tribal member, and there's nothing wrong with that. And then you got a tribal citizen over here, someone who wants to learn the history, the culture, the songs, the language. They want to play an active role in keeping this going for the generations, So I would get everyone try to think like that, They say think Indian, think Indian.
Mm-hmm.
What does that mean? Think Indian? Like just think about Native people, or like just think about us, or so to think Indian is to think about the 7 generations in the past, their sacrifices, their dreams. What were they? What did they know? How did they carry themselves? What did they leave behind for us? And then think 7 generations into the future. What am I doing today that's going to benefit my grandchildren's grandchildren? How are we going to keep this alive for them? How are we going to take care of this for them? How are we going to make sure these things all go forward? So that's kind of what I would do, just work on myself and make sure everyone's along for the ride and everyone has the same agenda. Because just the way I think about it is like years and years of misspending and misappropriating funds, and then it's just like this pile just gets stacked and stacked. Mm-hmm. And there needs to be a few terms of people that go in there and they're like, all right, we're going to look at all this, and we're going to, look at what we've done and fully accept it, embrace it, and then figure out how we're going to find a solution, instead of just stacking more on top.
How do you become part of that council? Do you got to be voted in, or is it a different process?
Yeah. So like ours, you have to live within the reservation boundaries for a year. Mm-hmm. Then after that year is up, you can run. And then you get voted in. So each district, they have voting. Yeah, I don't know too much about like the process and all that stuff. I try to stay out of tribal politics because it's just a lot, I worked back home at our tribal college and our tribal school for a few years. Mm-hmm. And, so like a lot of my relatives on my mom's side, the Drappeau side, they all do ceremonies and, help the people that way. And a lot of them work at the school or used to. So then all the, what do you call them? All all the problems and the beef that people have with all my relatives. Like when I went back and worked for the school and college, it's like I inherited those relationships to a certain extent. And so working there, I kind of got to see how all that plays out, and you know how that affects my livelihood as just coming back to work there.
Mm.
And so a main thing for me in my journey, thankful to see the end of a undergrad, thankful to see the end of my undergrad studies. A big important thing for me was to always give back with my education and in some sort of manner. So even when I was going to college, I was being a mentor in the Upward Bound program through the summer. And so always giving back. And, you know, a big thing of mine was to go back home whenever I finish and to work for some sort of organization. So I worked at the Ihangtuan Community College. It's an extension of Sinte Gleshka University out of Mission, South Dakota. And then I worked at a tribal school. And so since graduating, I worked in a lot of capacities. I was a language teacher. I was a college liaison. I was a project director for a mental health grant at Marty Indian School. Let's see what else here. A lot of contract work. So when I was up in Sioux Falls at Urban Indian Health, working in the cultural health department. And so the class I took, Native People's Healthcare and Policy, back in August, I spoke in that class, you know, and talked about just a Native perspective on wellness and illness or healing. And, you know, the medicine wheel and the pipe and the cottonwood tree and those things in our culture. And so I always made it a point to give back, you know, and Professor Turgeon, she's the one that really elevated my voice in her class, you know, because whenever I was in school, I was more like laid back and like reserved, never raising my hand and just like think a lot and want to say a lot, but I just sit back and observe and let other people. And then, you know, she's kind of like uplifting me, like, hey, you know, I know you know some things. If you could share them with us.
That's good.
Just help elevating my voice. So I'm always thankful to go back there and talk to her class. Because there's some of those students are going to go on to be, you know, practitioners, whether they're nurses or CNAs, or maybe they go to med school in the future. So it's always cool to interact with those certain, you know, and share. That way they understand, have that little bit of information and take them a long ways, you know, whether they'll be working here in South Dakota or wherever there might be Native people.
Well, yeah, I feel that. Now, we've been doing this for almost an hour and 14 minutes. Is there any like last things, shout outs, or anything you want to give out?
Yeah, I just want to give a shout out to Wase Wakpa Oyate, the community here in Vermillion. You know, I moved here in the early 2000s. I've always been back and forth between here and Wagner, Marty, Lake Andes. And so throughout my time here, you know, it's about to be 2025. I've seen a lot of change. I've seen the land change, all the new buildings and the new architecture of the university. And so when we first moved here, we live south of where Coyote Village is now, in that parking lot. There used to be homes there. And so that was gone. And then even the sports center, there used to be homes there to the south. And then that's completely gone. And so I just got to see Vermillion change a lot. And there's a lot of growth too. You know, the signs on Main Street that say Wase Wakpa of Vermillion. And so Wase is a red paint. It's a red earth paint we use in our ceremonies. And then Vermillion's like the color of red.
Oh, okay. There's a.
So it's just crazy, like the influence, like how the land kind of named the city.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, the influence, that influence. So like for like people on this earth, like the biology of our makeup is shaped by the land. And so like us here on the plains are a little bit taller,
I
you
noticed
know.
that. Yeah.
And then so you go like down to the desert in Navajo, Dene country, they're a lot shorter.
Mm.
And just the land. So the land influences the biology. And so it's just cool how it influences our makeup, you know. But then going back to Wasay Wakpa, which means the Valley of the Red Paint, and how that influenced everything here, from the name of the city. All the school colors are red, you know, Vermillion Tanagers, USD coyotes, you know, and the red's everywhere. You can go through Vermillion and you won't see any other colors, you know. But,
Sweet.
and then all the murals, you know, the one on outside of Cafe Brulee,
Yeah.
one's behind the movie theater. Just a lot of change and growth, you know. Whenever I was a kid, there really wasn't much here. Whenever I was a kid, we had the park. That was about it. Now they have the wellness center, the Boys and Girls Club. What else is new? I think that's about it. But you know, nowadays there's everything. There's a Goodwill. There's freaking
Now it's growing a bit now.
coffee shops and all these things. You know, back before there was the wellness center, there was the dome. And a long time ago, they didn't like allow public into the dome. But whenever I was younger, like me and all my buddies would go sneak in the dome and we'd just be like in there playing basketball or throwing the football around until we get kicked out. But yeah, it's just I'm grateful to be, you know, in this community and to be part of it. And I always say Wasay Wakpa till I die. And throw up the Wasay Wakpa. And you know, I'm grateful to take part in this and be part of the Vermillion community. You know, it's good to see Oscar Howe's paintings on the wall and his artwork, and you know, it's crazy. His legacy is rooted here in Vermillion too. You know, so thank you.
Sweet. All right. Thank you so much, Tee.
Yeah, Tee Drappeau.